Greetings and welcome to another Fablewind development update video. We last looked at Fablewind a little over a week ago, but since then, there's been some pretty exciting new developments, including the first release of the City of Bowerstone, one of the largest towns from the Fable game series, and also the Town of Brightlodge, which is in itself fairly sizable and quite scenic. There's also been quite a few bugs that have been patched here, and I'm happy to report that the mod has been cleaned and should be perfectly safe to, just play now, though of course it is still in development. And in addition to all that, there's also been a ton of new hostile opponents that have been added to the landscape here for you to face as you make your way through Albion. Now we're going to check out some of these new additions here today, but keep in mind this mod is still very much in development and far from being finished. But I have to say, this has quickly become one of the most exciting new landmass mods to, just show up this year, and I'm personally pretty excited to see where it goes. And anyway, as always, a download link is down below, and if you'd like to help out with this project, feel free to send Tel Shadow a message on the Nexus. And in particular, Tel Shadow has posted that they're looking for interior modders and designers to help populate these two new cities with homes, shops, player houses, taverns, and much more. Now, for those of you who want to jump straight to the new content of Bowerstone and Brightlodge, you'll find a list of timestamp annotations down below. And with that out of the way though, let's get started with our new showcase of Fablewind. And to keep in mind, we won't be going over the same areas today, so if you'd like to see the starting zones of Albion, please just take a look at the other Fablewind development video we did last week. But anyway, we're going to get started in, surprisingly, Cedar of all places, because this mod does add a new set of docks, including a few shacks to the Cedar waterfront here, where you can grab a boat to Albion. A lot of this is new, or newer since the last time we looked at it, and this includes a new dockside tavern, where you can meet some familiar faces, like Danae, or a particularly handsome Dunmer over in the corner there, but we mustn't linger here. All the new content is of course in Albion, not Cedar, and one of the new additions you'll come across when exploring Albion is, well, actual hostile opponents for you to face and kill. Now, much like the original Fable games, each of these areas is filled with bandits or undead or a variety of creatures that will block your progress until, you've killed them all. And this is sort of a standard fare RPG mechanic, with lots of fighting along roads and paths, turning the exterior world space basically into one big dungeon. A lot of classic role-playing games have this feature, especially Fable, but it's not really something that you see a whole lot in Morrowind. Outside of cliff races, the Morrowind world space is surprisingly safe to travel in, for, an RPG, but even so, I think this all works pretty well here in the Morrowind game engine. Now with that all out of the way though, we can finally move on to the actual new content, that is to say, the new landscapes, cities, and zones have been added in since we last took a look at Fablewind a week ago. And we're going to start out with Windmill Hill, which can be found just past Gibbet Woods, along the outskirts of Bowerstone. And naturally, you'll find a windmill here, as well as a small farmstead, and a mixture of both undead and bandits for you to face as you try to make your way to the city of Bowerstone. The path here is pretty straightforward. The road basically follows a sort of a crevasse, or a ravine down towards the city, but there are a few things to check out along the sides here, like the occasional hidden chest of loot, or a field of crops, a pond, or just a ton of skeletons to kill for whatever reason. And in some spots, you can look out beyond the path where you can still see, some of the unfinished landscapes, and of course, Fablewind is still very much in development. There's a lot of areas that still need work, but Tel Shadow is surprisingly prolific, with new updates coming out every few days. There's been 4 or 5 major updates just in the last week or so since we last saw Fablewind, adding just massive new areas to explore, so there's always, more to see and do, which is part of what really makes this project so exciting, the sheer speed at which the world of Albion is being built here. Now, we're finally coming up on the city of Bowerstone, one of the largest towns in the Fable universe, and again you'll note that while the city itself has largely been built here, the surrounding landscapes are still a bit barren, and, development is still ongoing in those areas. And that minor note aside though, Bowerstone itself is a beautiful and fantastic looking city, as we'll see here in the next few minutes. I'm really quite excited to show it off, because there's a lot of just really great little bits of level design just scattered throughout the city here. But anyway, the town here runs pretty much on a sort of a straight line, going from north to south here. So we're going to be first approaching it from the north here, with the Bowerstone Jail right at the northernmost tip of the city. The version of Bowerstone you're going to see in Fablewind is pretty much a replica of the one found in the original Fable and Fable the Lost Chapters. but just built with all vanilla Morrowind assets, as Fablewind is a completely Morrowind project with no modest resources used and no new assets included, which, as I've said before, and as I'll say again, really enhances the creativity and just impressive city and environment designs that you're going to see here, because Albion doesn't look anything at all like Morrowind. Bowerstone is very much a Fable-looking town. It doesn't look like, a city from Morrowind, but it uses all Morrowind assets, and the fact that the author was just able to pull this off really says something about their skills at world design and creation. But anyway, just to move on here, this first part of Bowerstone that we're going to be looking at here is Bowerstone North, a largely residential district where the wealthy and well-to-do make their homes, including the massive Bowerstone Manor. There's also a single shop in this neighborhood, and a temporary jail for the riffraff and petty criminals, should they cause any trouble. And otherwise, this is just a really scenic neighborhood with lots of gardens, fountains, and tree-lined streets and courtyards. And heading through to the next part of the city though, you'll find Bowerstone South, the more sort of commercial part of the city, where you'll find a large number of shops, including an outdoor smithy, which you can see here. Now, of course, you'll also find a tavern here, and also the city's only school, and a large number of residences, including a possible player home. And all this is just located in the same part of Bowerstone. And, I hate to gush excessively, but I just really love the city design here. Tel Shadow has absolutely nailed the Morrowind version of Bowerstone, with beautifully detailed streets, alleys, and avenues, including outdoor merchant stalls, and lots of bits of clutter like wagons, crates, and barrels, and lots of plant life, with an especially impressive attention to just detail here, with individually placed, tufts of grass, flowers, and bushes. I have to admit, I'm really starting to fall in love with Fablewind. I wasn't, totally sold on the project before, but every new update just really blows me away, and I can honestly say I'm really eagerly looking forward to what comes next with this amazing project. Sorry, I know I keep going off topic here, but it's just, I come from a level design background, more interior design than really exterior design, but still, it gives me a lot of just appreciation for the time and skills it takes to pull off a city like this. My own sad attempts at trying to build landmasses and towns just pale considerably in comparison. And there's just a lot to see here, though of course the city is still, largely without any interiors at the moment. As you can imagine, adding a ton of interiors for a city of this size is a little difficult for one modder to accomplish, even, such a prolific modder like Tel Shadow. And as a result, Tel Shadow is, looking for interior modders to, help out here, specifically with interiors that only use vanilla Morrowind assets, as Fablewind is very much an intentionally 100% vanilla created mod, so some creativity might be, needed when designing the interiors here. And if that sounds like something you want to try your hand at, let Tel Shadow know. There's a special subforum on the Nexus download page, just for those interested in helping out. And now real quick, a few notes about Bowerstone. According to the Fable wiki that I, just read here, it's pretty much the economic center of Albion, and also the largest city. Though Tel Shadow might choose to add some more locations from, the later Fable games, I don't know. I think most of the current mod is from the first Fable and Fable the Lost Chapters specifically, but there's also new towns introduced in Fable 2 and Fable 3 that Tel Shadow might choose to, include here. But anyway, the last part of Bowerstone that we're going to be taking a look at is Bowerstone Quay, the main harbor for the city. And, if you want, you can actually choose to take a boat from the prison path up to Bowerstone instead of going through Gibbet Woods, if you so desire. And that pretty much brings us to the end of Bowerstone though. There's not really much beyond the quay besides a largely still unfinished landmass, but regardless, it's a really impressive city, and definitely one of the highlights of Fablewind so far. But we're not quite done yet, because we still have one more town and a region to just check out here. Added just the other day, the Town of Brightlodge and the surrounding region. Now we're actually going to be, starting pretty far away from the town itself here. You can just sort of see it in the distance there, sitting at the edge of a serene lake. But we're actually going to follow the road for a bit as you approach Brightlodge, and the path here follows a bit of a precarious route, going over some rather dangerous looking rope bridges, along tall hilltops, and right past a bandit camp before you can even get to the city. But much like everything else in Fablewind, it's a rather scenic set of locations with some just amazing views as you make your approach here, including this beautiful overlook where you can clearly see the lake, Brightlodge, and the surrounding area, though this place is still, sort of in development, so you will notice some barren landscapes nearby. And this was actually updated just right after this video was produced, so you'll find some woodlands around the city now instead of just plain grasslands. Now just heading down to the lake here, you'll notice that this lake actually uses the Vivek Palace water assets to make an artificial set of waterways here, with water mist activators around different objects to provide a convincing sense of motion and water flow, which is just a really neat little detail here, and a great use of just vanilla Morrowind assets. And there's also a small water wheel house and a mill down here on its own little island, along with another house just outside the Town of Brightlodge. And you'll notice that the lake here actually drains out towards the ocean, with a set of waterfalls going over the cliffs in the distance, which we'll be taking a closer look at later on. But moving on, we're going to just head straight into Brightlodge, a beautiful and scenic little town of about 15 or so buildings, all clustered along a small hill overlooking the sea and also the nearby lake. The detailing here is again just amazing, with a wonderfully realized small town environment, including a town plaza with an outdoor smithy, an alchemist shop, and an outdoor training area. There's also a tower here off to the side, which I believe can be used as part of a fast travel network to get around Albion. Though this hasn't been finished quite yet, supposedly the gate network will be coming in a future update. I think they're called Course Gates or, something like that. And anyway, just heading back to the town's plaza, a fun fact to note about Brightlodge is that it's actually from one of the newer games. Lionhead Studios' last game, in fact, Fable Legends, which was cancelled in 2016 with the closing of Lionhead itself. Interestingly enough, Brightlodge is an older town, since Fable Legends actually took place before the original Fable, and at its heart is the Adventurer's Inn, meant as a base for questers and explorers to go out and discover Albion. This kind of ties in with the, sort of idea behind Fable Legends, being a more sort of a cooperative, focused, free-to-play game, though never actually, got fully released, I don't think. And in any event, it's a much smaller town than Bowerstone, but no less incredibly unique and just beautiful. There's some amazing just level design choices here, making it a really atmospheric location to visit and explore for, yourself. There's just a lot to like here, and while Fablewind is still very much in development, locations like these make it more than, worthwhile to download and check out today. Even if it is, probably not something you want to keep in your permanent save game just yet, since there's, still a lot of work to be done. And anyway, we're sort of skipping over it here, but there's a lot more that's been included with Fablewind so far, including 3 or 4 modest-sized interior dungeons, a sort of hidden exterior world space cave that we're finding on your own, and small bandit camps, and just much more besides. Albion is already shaping up to be one of the big, just surprise hit landmass mods of 2018, and even if you don't like the Fable games, and really who could, blame you for that, they were sort of limited, you should still, find this to be a really interesting take on Albion, particularly since the author is going for a more open world design than really the original Fable series themselves, with lots of new things to discover off the beaten path. And if this development preview doesn't, just get you a little bit excited for Fablewind, I don't really know what will. There's just a lot of impressive stuff already jam-packed into this quickly developing mod. But real quick, before we leave off here, I wanted to show off the world map so you can see, just where Albion is located. It's a pretty big landmass, maybe 1/5 the size of Ardenfell, though much of it is still incomplete. The northernmost areas are largely finished, with the westernmost tip of Brightlodge and the more sort of southern city of Bowerstone largely exterior complete as well. Obviously, it will conflict with Tower build, though the author is looking into potentially moving the landmass or creating a mood patch sometime in the future to just avoid conflicts. And anyway, that pretty much wraps up everything for this in-development preview. There's a lot of stuff going on with Fablewind, and it's definitely a project that's worth watching, or, helping out with if you're so interested. I would highly recommend keeping an eye on it. And anyway, we'll be back probably in another couple of weeks with another development update, or possibly even a trailer. So until then, thanks for watching, and I'll see you all next time.